Welcome to another video, man. As y'all can see, we have 10 underrated yet overpowered guns in Call of Duty
Players are
history.
always spamming the same 4 guns in every single game. It's the rule of
Further ado,
4.
let's
I
get
mean,
into
how
the
else are
video.
you going to cheese your way to a nuke, right? But at the same time, you can have way more fun with Call of Duty if you take the road less traveled. Sometimes that road takes you to some legendary places, and those places are nice and empty because everyone else is taking the more popular road and spamming the same 4 guns. I mean, one of those roads was the KSG from Classic Modern Warfare 3. An absolutely absurd pump-action shotgun that was entirely overshadowed by the Striker, despite having one of the most ridiculous one-shot kill ranges of any pump-action shotty during the Call of Duty golden age. It wasn't a slug like Black Ops 2's version, but it had a pretty tight hitbox. Yeah, I mean, you had to relatively be precise, but the insta-kill power was insane, and there was also a really cheesy animation cancel that, once you mastered it, could more than double the fire rate. There you go, tips and tricks with T. Martin again. Was really hard to pull it off, but if you were good at it, you could run around the map absolutely just.
I ain't gonna lie, I used to use KSG and like
everybody.
I think you know what
nothing
it's
they can
doing.
do
Like
about
the
it.
gun,
Sit
like
down, sit down. Hardly anybody remembers this thing because hardly anybody was using it back in the day. And once the Black Ops 2 KSG hit the scene,
taking his time when
nobody
it
thought about
off,
the Modern Warfare 3 version ever again. But
it
you should think
fired
about
off
it right
like,
now.
It'll eventually fire off.
It was pretty crazy. But it wasn't the only shotgun in Classic Modern Warfare 3. It was overshadowed by the Striker. The USAS 12.
It's a
Your
good
starting
gun,
shotty in the game. Semi-auto. Just like the Striker. But what made it so overshadowed was the fact the Striker completely outclassed it. Now, when you get down to it, the brass tacks, USAS was basically a nerfed Striker.
What gun he said it was?
Auto, just like the Striker. But what made it so overshadowed was the fact the Striker completely outclassed it. Now, when you get down to it, the brass tacks, USAS was basically a nerfed Striker. It was. Smaller ammo capacity, lower fire rate cap, slower movement speed. So once you unlock the actual Striker, there was no reason to ever use the USAS again. Or was there? See, the USAS
You've been assisted.
May have been slower and carried fewer shells at a time.
Come on,
but also actually had a way better one-shot kill range. Did you know that? Way better. Nobody knew that. Because, I mean, everyone wanted to run around the map spamming the right trigger for easy insta-kills with the Striker. Why would Call of Duty shotgun players ever want to put effort into their gameplay? You know what I'm saying?
That was uncalled for, Judith.
Maybe it was a little mean. Maybe, but it's the truth. I admit the Striker was statistically the better shotty. But the USAS was insanely slept on despite having some really good stats. It just wasn't as brainless as the Striker, so none of the shotgunners wanted to use it. Next up. Now, this one comes straight from the heart. There's still people who try to tell me, Jimmy, this gun was buns. Frankly, I think this gun is a bit of a litmus test for classic Black Ops players. I'm indeed talking about the infield. If you thought the gun was crap, kind of just giving away the fact that you were a FAMAS spammer, FAMAS lover, because if you actually tried to use the infield, you know why it's here. We don't even have to say a word. We can look across the room at each other and our eyes will connect and we understand each other. It had the same exact fire rate and damage profile as the Commando and the Glow. Yes, the exact same. Fact check me. And yet people thought those were better. Why? Because it was ugly? That's rude. I mean, maybe you're ugly on the inside and people tell you you have potential. I'm sorry, that was terrible. The infield was a monster once you figured out the recoil pattern. And yes, the recoil was a little bouncy, but who cares? You could get better. The infield was statistically just as good as some of the most iconic rifles in Black Ops history. And yet people to this day, whenever I mention it, come at me and tell me it was bad. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Look in the mirror. Now, I might just be out of the loop on this one because I am truly an unk, and I never really thought the Holger 5.56 was all that popular in Modern Warfare 3. Didn't really play the game a lot. But if you boot the game up right now and you spend some time in multiplayer, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because it's actually in a good place, right? You're not going to see very much of it online. Here's the thing. From what I hear, word on the street, little birdies say it's insane.
Word on the street is that you've got a fat girl.
Heavy assault rifle you unlock somewhat late in the progression. Heavily resembles the classic G36, but also has some pretty cheesy attachments to go along with that handling and accuracy. You even had a conversion kit that made it a 4-round burst like the classic M8A1, and you had another conversion kit that gave it a 100-round drum mag for some reason, and it made it a freaking double-barrel rifle for another reason, so it fired 2 bullets at one time. I mean, I don't think it was the first double-barrel assault rifle in Cult history, but I think it was actually the best. And even though not a lot of people are still using this version of the Holger, I wanted to show it some love. I know a lot of you love this game, and even though I do think the game is a little overrated, as many of you saw the other day in our most overrated Call of Duty list, I want to show it some love, because I will admit, it's definitely the best post-Warzone Call of Duty game so far. Now, let's go back. Way back.
We're going back in time.
If you were a COD World War II player, you probably saw a lot of the Type 100 online, but if you were a World at War player, you probably forgot it was even in the game. It was one of only 4 SMGs in the game. Frankly, it was the most forgettable of all of them. I mean, the other SMGs in the game were the MP40, which was broken, the PPSH, which was a meat grinder, and the Thompson, which was just iconic for being the Thompson and the coolest looking and sounding close-range gun in the game. Here, listen. But then, there was the Type 100, which was a Japanese SMG with moderate fire rate, average damage, and it didn't look or sound particularly cool, especially not compared to other SMGs in the game. What made the Type 100 so good was the accuracy. Far and away the most accurate SMG in the game. Actually super competitive at mid-range because of that recoil pattern and the damage. If you played COD World War II and you remember that version of the Type 100, the World at War version is basically the same thing. Super light, super low recoil, moderate fire rate, extremely consistent damage, which honestly made it better at mid-range than close range. But since it wasn't a super loud meat grinder like the PPSH or a 2-tap machine devil like the MP40, nobody cared. It seems like there have been a lot of instances throughout Call of Duty history of guns that are super powerful in their own right, but they get totally overshadowed by something overpowered. Case in point, golly, the G36C in Modern Warfare 3. Everybody loved the ACR. It was the savior of this game. It's pretty obvious since it was completely overpowered. 2-shot kill machine, 0 recoil, super clean iron sights. What's not to love? Brainless gun. But if you had a little bit of a brain back then and you wanted to feel like you were actually earning your kills and using your brain, you would swap over to the G36C. Had an extremely similar damage profile, faster fire rate. Yeah, fun fact, main difference between the ACR and the G36 in the game was the fact that the 36 had some more recoil, which could usually turn people off from using it, but it also had one of the coolest reload animations in Call of Duty history, and like I said, the damage profile was extremely similar to the ACR, so you were still going to be melting people in the blink of an eye. It took a little more skill to use, I'll admit, and you really didn't get that extra punch out of it for the extra work, you were doing, but it was a strong gun. It deserved more usage online. If the ACR wasn't there, this would have been significantly more popular. And speaking of great rifles that were completely overshadowed by the ACR, I love talking about this gun whenever I get the chance because it is one of the most satisfying rifles in classic Modern Warfare 3, but nobody was actually using it because it took a lot of skill to control. I'm talking about the CM901. Now, you guys know how COD players feel about using guns that take some skill when instead they could just use the free kill laser beam, so nobody used it. Look, it had kick, I know. It had lots of kick. It was a kicker. It's definitely some drawbacks. But the 2-shot kill range was insane as long as you landed, or if you could land one headshot. And the reload animation was smooth. It's hard to put it down once you started. Was it better than the ACR? No. Was it better than the G36C? Maybe, I don't know. But it was slept on. It was slept on. And it was slept on because it was hard to use. It was, absolutely. It was a punchy weapon. I like that. Punchy weapon. I thought it deserved more love, so we brought it up today. Let's talk about one more G36. The Holger 26 in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, this is one of those guns that I have always crapped on because it was such a different kind of LMG compared to others in the game. It was lighter, it was quicker to reload, but it also didn't pack a punch. It was weaker, and I believe it was the only LMG in the game that didn't have any extended barrel options, which could sometimes make it feel like a pea shooter. Also had a 30-round mag attachment you could slap on there to make it feel like an assault rifle, but nobody did that because then it's the worst AR in the game. But here's the thing. I actually think people were a little too harsh, myself included, on this LMG version of the gun because I think we were using it wrong. If you try to use the Holger like one of the other LMGs in the game, you're going to get creamed. It's not meant to hold down a certain location from a safe distance and then spend 10 minutes reloading. No, this is a gun that's meant to apply constant pressure while on the move from mid to long range. You're not going to melt people, but you're going to be a total headache to the other team, and since it only took a couple seconds to reload the 100-round drum mag, you had no downtime compared to the other LMGs. So yeah, it's not the best LMG in the game, but it's also way better than a lot of people gave it credit for, and I'm in the mood to give the G36 family of guns some extra love, so there it is. Now, unless you were playing zombies, I feel like you never saw this gun online. Talking about the Type 25, specifically in Black Ops 2. Now, the zombies community loved it, of course, so a lot of people remember it, but how many times do you actually see somebody dropping kills in multiplayer? I almost never did. Honestly, I know why. It had the highest fire rate of the ARs in the game, but it also had the highest recoil, one of the slowest default reload animations. It was a snooze fest. But what you got in return for those drawbacks was a ridiculously fast time to kill that was basically universal across all the ranges. Close, long, mid, it didn't matter. The fire rate was so high and the damage profile was so consistent that as long as you were staying on target and you could control that recoil, the TTK was one of the fastest in the game, but not a lot of people knew that. The issue was actually maintaining the recoil pattern. That was easier said than done because when compared to most of the other guns in Black Ops 2, the Type 25, it had a lot of kick to it. Most people elected to use something that may have fired slower but was also easier to control, so the Type, it never got much attention. Speaking of Black Ops 2 guns that didn't get enough attention,
And
especially I think some of you might have actually guessed the number one pick already.
Gold.
We're gonna see. I don't know. I've been trying to get one over on you guys lately. I feel like everybody says they loved every gun in Black Ops 2. I think those people were liars because not nearly enough people were using the MTAR. Why weren't they using it? Well, my guess is simply because it was a starting rifle. You unlocked it by default, and then you progressed through the game. You would unlock some iconic weapons, right? M27, A94, M8, A1. So nobody was going to be thinking about the starting assault rifle like that on the surface. I mean, it looks simple and unimpressive. But once you peeled back all the layers of this beautiful onion, you had an amazing weapon. I used this thing so much. It was actually really powerful in almost every scenario. The fire rate was moderate, but the recoil was low. Damage was really high because it was a full auto rifle, and the headshot bonus was pretty chunky. So even though it was a starting AR, the killing power was just as good as some of the most popular rifles in the game, and the reload animation, one of the best. Perfect example of a gun that was overshadowed simply because it was your starting weapon in a sea of amazing, iconic weapons. And if you ask me, this is the most underrated but overpowered gun in Call of Duty history. Let the comments pour over me.
If you enjoyed that video, like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications.